Most people are good parents, but pathetic role models. They get their kids to school on time, they put food on the table and a roof over their head, but at the same time, they won't give up addictions, they won't face their demons, and they refuse to challenge their own self-doubt. They're happy to provide, but too gutless to live. And I know this because that was me. 9 years ago, my first child was born, and I definitely wasn't ready to be a father. I look back at that time, and I had no clue about what to do with my life. I was running around with people that talked about their past more than their future. I was drinking and taking party drugs. And to make things even worse, I didn't even have a job. And to top that off, I wouldn't even know how to apply for a job. Because I grew up in an environment where there wasn't a lot of education. And when I mean education, I don't mean 1 + 1 = 2. I mean education on how to act and how to live and how to survive. So the thought of bringing a child into a world with someone that doesn't even know how to fend for themselves, not only did it scare me, but it's something I kind of didn't want. But because my mum died when I was young, and like I said, my father wasn't really around, that feeling of being emotionally left out was enough to spark something inside me to want something different for my kids. So slowly but gradually, I started to get my life together. I went out and I got a job, and after a while, I ended up getting my own house. So I had things pretty set up and pretty stable living. And at that time, I thought that I was a great dad. I thought that I was a great parent, and I also thought that I was a great role model. But because the bar was set so low for me, that what I thought was great was actually below average. Because when you grow up in an environment where you're surrounded by people who don't take being a role model serious, the bar for you is going to be set very, very low. And that's why a lot of people that come from bad environments make terrible parents, because it's not their fault. They were just raised by terrible people. So even though my kids had clothes on their back, a roof over their head, food in the cupboard, I was still a terrible leader. I thought because I'm going to work 5 days a week, I'm providing for my children, therefore my weekends deserve to be me and for me only. So every weekend I'll just get drunk and take party drugs. I wasn't being a good role model at all. If I look back at that time, I was always in a bad mood. I had no self-belief, I had no confidence, and I was very impatient. And that's just a result of when you drink and take drugs every weekend. Your energy is going to be low, your spirit's going to be gone, and your mind is going to be elsewhere. I was present in my kid's life, but I wasn't there mentally present. So at that time, even though I thought I was a good parent, I was a fucking terrible parent. But the turning point for me was this. One day I was sitting on my couch and I was watching a documentary on a serial killer, and there was a psychologist on there. A psychologist said something that I'll never forget. He said that genetics load the gun, but childhood experience pulls the trigger. People aren't born a certain way. They're raised a certain way. The biggest problem in the world today is that parents don't want to accept that the path they pave is where their kids will walk. They don't want to take accountability for their kids' actions. They don't want to take accountability for how their kids turn out in the future. They want to blame something else like video games or celebrities or social media. But kids don't do what they're told. Kids repeat what they see. The path you pave is where your children will walk. So if you want your kids to turn out better, then you need to walk better. And I had to ask myself, who do I want my kids to be? Do I want them to be just like me? And at that time, the answer was fuck no. I had no confidence, low self-esteem, addicted to alcohol and drugs, moping around feeling sorry for myself. My mindset on reality was completely negative. I didn't want my kids to turn out like me. And at that point, I knew I had to change. The first thing I did for my kids was went completely sober, not just from party drugs, but also alcohol. I wanted to prove to my kids that you can survive in society and in reality without putting addiction in your body. And since becoming sober, I've noticed that obviously I'm happier, I'm calmer, but also I'm a lot more present in my kids' life. When my kids would come to me and show me their picture, I would say, oh, that's good, it looks great. But I wasn't really caring and I wasn't really present in that moment. I just wanted to tell them what they wanted to hear so I can get back to doing what I'm doing. Now when my kids come to me and they show me something, I feel genuinely interested. I feel less selfish. I feel more engaged with what they want to do, and I'm more happy to spend time with them. And the second thing I did for my kids was face my demons. I realized that if I want to be a great leader for my kids, I need to be happy, confident, and have no anxiety. And if I keep running from my problems and not dealing with what happened to me as a child, then how can my kids have a happy leader? How can my kids have a strong leader? How can my kids have a leader that can lead them to a life they want to live? You can't do that when you're running from your problems. You can't fix people and guide people when you haven't fixed yourself. And the third thing I did was learn about mental health. I think it's very important as a parent to understand how the mind works. Because if you understand the mind, you can understand your children better. If you understand how dopamine, serotonin, and things like GABA work, then you understand their moods, then you understand their personality, then you understand their wants and needs. It's one thing to realize when your kids are sad, but when you understand why they're sad, what led to them being sad, and how to pick them up and make them happy again, that there is a cheat code to being a parent. See, a lot of parents struggle with dealing with their kids' emotions is because they don't understand emotions. And we live in a time now where you can educate yourself on the mind pretty much for free. So there's no excuse anymore. And the fourth thing I did was fix my physical health. I realized that if I want to be a great father, I need to have the energy to keep up with them. It's very hard to be a good parent when you're always tired, you're always in a bad mood, and your body's falling apart. So I think it's very important for parents to take their physical health serious. If your body's strong, then I feel like it makes it a lot easier to be a parent because kids are hyperactive, they got a lot of energy, and they're always bouncing off the walls. So if you can get your body up to a standard where you can enjoy being a parent rather than looking at being an active parent as an effort, then being a parent actually becomes fun instead of stressful. And finally, the most important thing, overcoming self-doubt. This is something that you probably won't hear a lot of psychologists talk about or a lot of self-help parent gurus talk about. But overcoming self-doubt is very important because in life to survive, in life to be happy, and to also be successful, you have to be confident and you have to believe in yourself. So overcoming your self-doubt isn't about you. It's about your kids. Because if your kids don't know what confidence looks like and they don't know what self-belief looks like, then how are they going to be happy and successful in life? That's why it's important to challenge your self-doubt. Show them who to follow. Show them who to be. You have to deal with that because if you don't, unconfident people raise unconfident kids. I strongly believe that being a good parent is more than providing. It's leading. It's showing them how to be a person. It's showing them how to live. It's showing them how to act. It isn't just putting food on the table. It isn't just taking them to school. It's showing them who they should become. That's what makes a great parent. And I think that's a problem with the world. We have a lot of parents out here that think their job's done after food's on the table. No, your job's not done. If you want your kids to live better, you need to act better so they can become better. How can you expect your kids to grow up and become something when deep down you feel like you're nothing? You can't tell your kids to grow up and become a lion when you're sitting around acting like a house cat. It doesn't work like that. You need to lead. You need to be the example. You need to push yourself out of your comfort zone so you can give them a better life and a better future.